6. Hidden female weaknesses. Men often miss Stoic psychology, Stoic bloom. What if the strongest women you know are quietly battling emotional patterns they don't even speak of? Why do some men lose connection with women, even when they mean well, simply because they overlook what she won't say out loud? In today's episode, we'll explore 6 powerful but often hidden emotional vulnerabilities in women and how understanding them through a Stoic lens can deepen your relationships and sharpen your masculine awareness. Let's begin. Part 1. Fear of being judged. No matter how confident she appears on the outside, many women carry a persistent fear of being judged for their emotions, for their body, for their choices, for not being enough, or worse, for being too much. This fear is a silent burden rooted in years of cultural conditioning and social expectation. As Marcus Aurelius reminds us, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. But this strength isn't easily accessed when you're constantly under the microscope. This fear of judgment makes women second-guess themselves. It can make them quieter, less assertive, or overly agreeable. Not because they're weak, but because they've been taught that disagreement might lead to rejection. And here's where you come in, not as her savior, but as her sanctuary. A Stoic man doesn't rescue, he understands. He doesn't rush to fix her, but holds space where she doesn't need to perform. You want to earn her trust? Then stop being another judge in her life. Be the one who sees past the surface, past the armor, and honors the person underneath. If that resonates, remember, our goal at Stoic Bloom isn't to give you tricks to get women, it's to help you become a man worth being with. If you're ready for that kind of growth, hit that subscribe button, like this video, and share it with someone who's ready to stop guessing and start understanding. Stoic Bloom, see beyond the mask, connect at the core. Part 2, the pressure to always be put together. Society has conditioned women to carry a silent expectation, to always appear calm, composed, and perfectly in control, hair done, emotions tucked in, life managed. Even when everything inside feels like it's unraveling, the mask must stay on. This isn't vanity, it's survival. It's learned from a world that often equates a woman's worth with how well she can keep things under control, even if it means suppressing her real needs, real mess, and real struggles. The Stoics remind us, appearances are deceiving, substance is rare. Epictetus would have told us not to judge a person by their outward calm, but by their ability to be honest with what's within. But here's the trap. When a woman feels she must always perform perfection, she loses the ability to be vulnerable. And when she loses that space, intimacy dies. Not because love is gone, but because authenticity has no room to breathe. What can a Stoic man do? Offer a mirror without distortion. When you're with her, drop the expectations. Drop the evaluations. Allow her the grace to just be. When she's messy, don't flinch. When she's silent, don't pressure. When she's tired of carrying it all, be the one place where she can finally let go. You see, strength isn't in maintaining a mask. Strength is in being seen fully and still being loved. That's the quiet kind of power most women long for but rarely find. Seneca once said, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." And many women suffer in silence, imagining they must be perfect or else they'll be dismissed. When you help dissolve that illusion, you do more than connect. You liberate. Stoic Bloom. Behind every "I'm fine" may be a soul asking to be seen. Part 3. Sensitivity to emotional distance. There's a moment, silent, brief, almost invisible, when a woman senses you pulling away. You haven't said a word, you haven't done anything drastic, but she feels it. The pause in your eyes, the weight in your silence, the absence behind your presence, and it stings. Not because she's insecure, but because she's attuned. Stoicism reminds us to observe, not react. But for many women, emotional distance isn't just observed, it's felt on a cellular level. It's like standing in the sun and suddenly noticing the warmth has faded. No thunder, no storm, just the quiet chill of absence. This sensitivity isn't weakness, it's awareness. A woman who has invested emotionally can detect even the slightest shift in your energy, the same way sailors sense an approaching storm from subtle changes in the wind. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Be tolerant with others and strict with yourself." So when she feels you drifting, it's not an invitation for defensiveness. It's a chance to examine your own stillness. Are you truly present or just physically there? Are you honest with your own discomfort or using silence as camouflage? Emotional distance doesn't always mean disinterest. Sometimes it means you're struggling. Sometimes it means you're avoiding. But if you don't speak to it, she will fill the silence with stories, ones you might never intend. The Stoic approach? Lead with clarity. If you need space, say so. If you're overwhelmed, admit it. Because when you name the gap, you keep her from blaming herself for it. And that, my friend, is emotional integrity. And if this hits home, because you've seen that look in her eyes or felt that shift in the room, maybe it's time to reflect, not run. Subscribe to this channel, not to impress her, but to become more aware of the quiet currents that shape your relationships. Like this video if it made you pause, and drop a comment if you've ever sensed a distance you couldn't explain. Stoics don't ghost, they grow. Stoic bloom. Emotional distance isn't silence, it's a story waiting for clarity. Part 4, emotional buildup from unspoken needs. Imagine a quiet room where nothing is said, but everything is felt. That's what happens when unspoken needs begin to pile up inside a woman's heart. She may smile, she may say, "It's fine," but underneath those words is an emotional ledger, one that's slowly filling with unmet desires, overlooked gestures, and quiet hopes that never found their voice. Stoicism teaches us that unmet expectations are a breeding ground for suffering, not because the world failed us, but because we never clarified our desires. The same principle applies in relationships. When a woman suppresses her needs, whether out of fear, pride, or past disappointments, those emotions don't disappear. They compound, quietly, powerfully. Seneca once said, "If you don't know what port you're sailing to, no wind is favorable." When her emotional needs remain vague or buried, both of you end up sailing into fog. And what begins as a small unspoken request can grow into a storm of resentment, confusion, or withdrawal. But here's where the Stoic insight sharpens. Unspoken needs are often not about extravagance. They're about emotional safety. She wants to feel heard without having to scream. She wants to be seen without having to vanish first. She wants reassurance, not because she doubts you, but because intimacy thrives on clarity. It's easy to misread her silence as strength, but silence isn't always self-sufficiency, it can be self-protection. A woman may withhold her needs because she's been punished for voicing them in the past, or because she doesn't want to be seen as too one. So she builds a dam, but even the strongest dams crack under pressure. The Stoic man listens not only to what's said, but to what's withheld. He doesn't demand declarations. He observes the emotional climate. He pays attention. Because emotional buildup is never random, it's a response to absence, to ambiguity, to inconsistency. You don't have to solve everything. You don't need to become her therapist. But you do need to be present enough to ask, what's beneath the silence? And steady enough to hold space when the answer comes. Stoic bloom. Unspoken needs are not invisible. They are simply waiting for a safe place to land. Part 5, the power of subtle validation. Sometimes the strongest reassurance isn't in the grand gestures, it's in the almost invisible ones. A look that says, "I'm here." A soft nod when she's speaking. A quiet moment of eye contact when she's uncertain. This is the art of subtle validation. And in many women's hearts, it's the language they're hoping you understand without being told. Stoicism teaches us to value intention over appearance, substance over noise. And subtle validation is exactly that. Intentional, grounded, and powerful in its quiet form. It's not flattery, it's not ego-stroking, it's the quiet confirmation that I see you, I get you, and you matter, delivered not through excessive praise, but presence. Epictetus said, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak." This isn't just about being polite, it's about presence. When a woman speaks, she's not always asking for a solution. She's often asking for resonance. For that one word, one pause, one micro-expression that signals you're not alone in this thought. And when she doesn't get it, she might not protest, but she notices. Because subtle validation works both ways. It can be powerfully healing or quietly absent. The Stoic man doesn't perform affection to gain approval. He gives validation as an expression of stability. He's not overwhelmed by her need to feel seen. He honors it because he knows that every human being longs for significance. So if she shows you a part of her world, her ideas, her insecurities, her art, don't dismiss it with a shrug or an absent-minded, "Cool." Lean in, not with exaggeration, but with honesty. Because to validate her subtly is to say, "Your inner world matters to me," even when you don't shout it. Now, if this part of the video hit home, if you suddenly remembered a moment when someone's silence hurt more than words ever could, do something quietly bold. Hit that subscribe button, not just because it helps us grow, but because it's the digital version of a head nod. You're saying, "This matters." Share the video if you know someone who struggles to read subtle cues, or just drop a comment sharing your own experience. Remember, the smallest gestures often echo the loudest. Stoic bloom. Quiet recognition builds strong connections. Part 6. Oversharing as a signal of insecurity. We live in an age where people reveal more in one online post than they once would in years of friendship. But not all vulnerability is created equal, and not all honesty is rooted in strength. When a woman overshares too quickly, especially early in a relationship, it's often not a sign of openness. It's a quiet cry for anchoring, a signal that says, "If I unload everything now, maybe you won't leave later." But true emotional intimacy cannot be fast-tracked through a flood of personal details. Stoicism teaches us to guard our words, not out of secrecy, but out of respect for both the speaker and the listener. Seneca wrote, "Speech is the mirror of the soul. As a man speaks, so is he." And sometimes too much too soon clouds the clarity of connection. Oversharing can mask insecurity the way overcompensation hides fear. It's not that her feelings aren't valid, it's that the speed and depth of disclosure may stem from an unspoken need for immediate safety, immediate attachment, immediate assurance. But anything gained too quickly is often held too loosely. A Stoic man doesn't react with judgment, nor does he reward impulsive emotional outbursts with blind reassurance. Instead, he listens carefully. He remains grounded. He creates space so that what is shared can breathe, unfold, and become real, not rushed. Because wisdom knows the deepest truths aren't poured out. They're drawn out, slowly, like water from a well. So when she tells you too much, too fast, don't be quick to label. Ask yourself, is she seeking connection or testing its depth? Is she being vulnerable, or is she afraid of silence? True connection respects timing, And sometimes the most respectful thing you can offer is not advice or answers, but the patience to let the story come when it's ready. Stoic bloom. Depth is not about how much you share, but how well you hold what's shared. Part 7, conclusion. What you've just explored isn't a set of criticisms, it's a call to awareness. These 6 emotional patterns aren't signs of weakness in women, nor are they reasons for dismissal. They're reflections of deeper human complexity. And if you look closely, you'll see pieces of yourself in them too. That's the Stoic lens, not to judge, but to understand, and through understanding, to act with both strength and compassion. Confidence doesn't come from controlling others. It comes from mastering your responses to what others reveal. The Stoic man doesn't demand simplicity. He navigates complexity with stillness. He listens without losing his center. He sees vulnerability and responds not with dominance, but with discernment. So if this message resonated with you, if it made you reflect, pause, or even laugh a little at truths we rarely speak aloud, then do something with that energy. Subscribe to Stoic Bloom. Join a space where ancient wisdom meets modern reality. Share this video with someone who needs less noise and more clarity in their relationships. Drop a comment below. What was the most eye-opening moment for you? What truth will you carry forward? And if you're bold enough, leave a like, not for us, but for the version of yourself that refuses to stay asleep. Because here, we don't chase popularity. We pursue perspective. One hard-earned truth at a time. Stoic bloom. Calm eyes, sharp mind, open heart.